Hello and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Eric Hernandez, and I'm here once again by myself in my living room. This is my makeshift studio. My recorder's right here. My tablet's there. I'm just trying to pull this all together, and hopefully the sound is better this week around, and hopefully everybody enjoys. On this episode, I talk about the current back and forth going on between Universal Studios and AMC theaters. The dispute between the two is the release of Trolls World Tour. Whether AMC was right to complain that Universal skipped the 90-day window in which normally a theater is shown in theaters first, and then it's released on Blu-ray, DVD, or streaming, or video on demand. AMC is upset, and so they decided to pull all upcoming movies from their theaters. They're like, you know what? If you want to show Fast 9, we're not going to show it. If you want to show Jurassic World, we're not going to show it. If you want to show us the new Minions movie, we don't care. If you want to show us Sing 2, those are the movies that I mentioned in the news piece, they're going to say all Universal Studios movies will not be played in AMC theater chains. We'll get into that. I'm very long-winded when it comes to that, but I also go into not just between AMC and Universal, but also the idea of going to a theater or staying at home. We'll go into all that in detail. And please, like I said at the end of the episode, if you have any opinions, if you want to share your thoughts, feel free to reach out. I'll give you all the information at the end. But let's get to the plugs. We are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can find us under the podcast section. You can also find the show over at Rabblecast.libsyn.com. Or check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rabblecast. Send us a tweet at Rabblecast. Check out the Rabblecast Facebook fan page. And again, if you have any opinions, if you want to let me know about something, Rabblecast@gmail.com. I'd be greatly appreciated. If you have any thoughts or ideas, let me know. Again, if you want to share any stories, share pictures with us. Feel free. I also talk about, what's some of the other stuff I talk about at the end? I'm blanking. I just did the episode. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a film that I just watched, oddly enough, at home, in my home theater, I guess you can say. Home theater, it's just the big screen. Relax, folks. Or Venom, I talk about briefly. I didn't get into as much detail about that one. But just to round out what I talked about. So there you go. Hopefully everybody's out there. Stay safe, enjoy, and, well, enjoy the show. Things are set for tonight. We got the recorder rolling, obviously. Got my tablet set up for any of the little news bits that I'm going to cover. And I think I'm good. How's everybody out there? I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope you're able to get whatever necessities you need from the stores. I hope you're able to check on your loved ones. I'm hoping that your families and friends are safe and hopefully abiding by the ordinances. If not, I hope you're still being safe and smart about the whole thing. And hopefully this all comes to an end real soon. Again, I'm not going to cover a lot of the stuff that's going on out in the day-to-day world with news coverage of people who were infected or deaths or recoveries. There's a lot of news outlets out there. Please feel free to check out any of those and get those updates. And just like I said, please be safe. I don't feel like getting into arguments when it comes to numbers and politics and stuff like that. I am not prepared for that on this type of show. I'm hoping that I can bring you a smile. I'm hoping that things I can distract you from your day-to-day shelter in place, or whatever your case is currently. I'm hoping that this is a little bit of a getaway so that we can all just have some fun, talk about a few different news topics, and then we can go from there. So, with that said, recently found was a news story that was really interesting. With everything going on right now, this is a result of the current crisis and pandemic, there was a story involving movie theaters, and AMC in particular. There was another chain that also chimed in on this story as well. But what happened was, once everybody got the once the declaration happened that this was a pandemic and people were going to have to shelter in place and no more gatherings of, it was 50 at first, then 25, and no more gatherings of 10 or more people in a certain area, whatever the case was, and staying 6 feet apart. Universal decided that they wanted to try to help people that were staying at home. So what they did was they took one of their movies and decided to do an early release with it. This movie in particular was Trolls World Tour. If you've seen the previous Trolls movie, it's, the lovable troll characters from the 90s, well, lovable or dislikable depending on your tastes. This came down to, it was animated movie where you get to see a bunch of trolls doing popular songs. There was another movie that came out not too long ago. It was called Sing, where they had animated characters, anthropomorphic characters, go through a storyline and sing pop songs on stage to try to save a theater. And Trolls, the similar idea. They go through and they're trying to save some of their friends, and they sing different songs, and everybody, happy ending. It's a fun movie. It really is. I watched it with my son at one point, and he enjoyed it immensely. So I was like, oh, this is, a fun way to convey different songs to the younger generation that might not watch them typically. Let's see. For this one, Trolls World Tour, that just came out recently, and we're going to go over what happened. It has stars such as Anna Kendrick, Justin Timberlake, Rachel Bloom, James Corden, Ron Funches, Kelly Clarkson, Sam Rockwell, George Clinton, Mary J. Blige, Kenan Thompson. The list goes on and on. Different talent out in Hollywood who are immensely talented as far as music. If you watch James Corden, he does the karaoke sing-along on his talk show. Justin Timberlake obviously doesn't need any real introduction. He does immense work as far as not only pop when he was in the boy band in, I think, was it NSYNC? Yes. But he's gone on to have an acting career, continue doing his music, and really just evolve as a musician. And everybody else. You go through and you're going to be able to find a bunch of different people who have lended their talents to this film to make it such a fun thing. This is for Trolls World Tour. I think they were a little bit less known names in the first Trolls movie, but regardless. What's going on here is Universal decided that they were going to release Trolls World Tour for premium video on demand. And what that means is for a 48-hour window, they were going to release the movie. So I think it was like $19 or $20. You can rent it online. So that if you were staying at home, especially if you have kids and you need something to distract them or entertain them, you could give them something and they can have fun and you could sing along, be enjoyable. If you have it on demand or rent it, you have it for, I think it was like a 24 or 48-hour period, and you can watch it over and over to your heart's content. And it worked great for them. The movie itself had a budget, let's see here, of $90 million. That's a lot of money. We talked about before where Disney was trying to make some decisions whether they were going to release certain films on their Disney Plus streaming service. In particular, we talked about Artemis Fowl is going to be coming out on Disney Plus streaming very soon, whereas some of the other films, kind of like Black Widow, or not kind of exactly Black Widow, was going to have to get bumped from its May 1st release date. In fact, May 1st just came and went, so it would have been this weekend. Rather than lose money on that one, they decided they're going to push that one back to, I think it was November 6th. 2020. So they want to make sure that they can recoup those costs. In this case, with Trolls World Tour, $90 million is still a chunk of change, especially to movie studios, but they didn't want to lose it. So they decided, all right, let's see what we can do. Well, for that weekend, and for the first few weeks, I believe, they were able to rake in $100 million alone. You're thinking to yourself, well, that didn't really do much. Well, no, that's really impressive, actually, because for a movie that was just released through premium video on demand, that hasn't been done really. So for them to go that route and them to say, hey, look, we want to get this out there, we want families to enjoy it, and we also want to make money, obviously. Enough people rented it to watch it, and it made a lot of people at Universal go, hey, maybe there's something to this. Maybe this works out. Now, granted, they wanted to not only help themselves as far as their pockets, they wanted to make sure the people that worked on the movie were able to be to enjoy the praise and the payoff for their hard work, and also the employees at Universal itself, who obviously have to earn money. How do you pay them? You've got to be able to make your return on those movies. At current, the movie is at a cumulative, I can't even say that word, cumulative bear with me. Cumulative worldwide gross, just I'm gonna leave it alone, at 1.9 million. Excuse me, what was it? Oh wow, did they really make that much? They were at a cumulative worldwide gross of 1.9. Looks like not billion. That can't be billion. What the hell am I looking at? I have no clue what's going on here. No, that would be right. Okay, I'm looking at this wrong. Okay. Cumulative worldwide gross of $1.9 million. That's through releases, I'm assuming. I'm going to go with that right now. And with the announcement that they made $100 million through premium video on demand, that's amazing. That's great for them. And they're saying that they're going to, it's going to keep making money. What you have to keep in mind, though, is for movies when they're released, especially here domestically or overseas, is that there's also money involved as far as advertising. So billboards, radio, TV, whatever the case is, print, that's still out there. And that's usually, from what we've talked about in the past, that's usually double the budget you're essentially looking at. So they need to make quite a bit of money to cover the costs for this. But at the same time, they're like, look, people are actually digging this. People decided that they wanted to rent it and enjoy it and have it in their homes. So why not release it this way? Well, unfortunately, this breaks a little bit of an agreement with the movie theaters. And it's a really weird time with everything going on, being that a lot of the places have to close. Obviously, you're not going to go to a movie theater right now with everything going on. You can't be sitting next to somebody, especially a stranger, not sure what they have or if they've been taking care of themselves, and comfortably watch a movie. But at the same time, don't get me wrong, I enjoy watching a movie. Going to the theater is an experience. Going to the concession stand, buying a soda, some candy or popcorn, whatever the case is, going to the theater is something that you come to expect. That experience when you go to a movie theater and you want to watch, the latest movie or the latest hit, or if you can take your kids to watch a animated feature, whatever the case is, it's a fun experience to be able to go out there and watch the latest films. AMC got a little upset that they decided to bypass the movie theater window, and normally what happens is right now they will show the movie for about a month or two, maybe 3, depending on how much of a success the movie is. And then 90 days after it does its theater run, then they'll port it over to video on demand or DVD, Blu-ray, whatever the case is nowadays. I remember way back when movies would take almost forever. At least as a child, it seemed like forever when you watched a movie in the theater. And if it was a fun movie, in my case, let's say the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Like, I remember having to wait months on end after its initial theater run for it to be released on VHS. Get that. But nowadays you can easily put something on streaming or download a video on demand. So if you have a streaming service, so iTunes, Amazon Plus or Prime, whatever the case is, or any other the movie channels, if it makes it there, you could just click on your device and watch it that way. And people were like, oh, let's do that. But AMC got pissed off because they said, oh, look, you decided to skip us and all the other movie theaters out there, so we're now going to put our foot down and say no more Universal Pictures will be shown through our theater chain. What kind of crazy, silly person would say, hey, look, because you showed this one movie out during a pandemic, regardless of the fact that you might have wanted to do this so that people have something to watch while they're at home, we're pissed off and we're not going to let you show any of your films going further. And this has been an ongoing story. I was going to talk about this last week, actually, when everything started bubbling up, but more and more started coming out as everything was talked about. There's been a lot of back and forth and people saying that, oh, this, that, your other thing. Let's see if I can find the actual little blurb from, I believe it was AMC, that they weren't too happy. Let's see. Universal's unilateral pronouncements on this issue are unpalatable to us, and has always been the case. AMC is willing to sit down with Universal to discuss further Windows strategies and different economic models between your company and ours. However, in the absence of such discussions and an acceptable conclusion here thereto, our decades of incredibly successful business activity together has sadly come to an end. And it's just like, what? What are you talking about? The way it works, and for anybody who's curious, the system, and this is a brief overview, let's just say. I'm not an expert on this, but studios get together, they want to make a film, they want to make a movie. When you make a movie, you then have to look for a distributor. That distributor will then take that on and then try to find a way to put the movie out in different places. So when you go to different movie theaters, sometimes you'll find a movie chain won't play certain films from certain studios or certain companies, especially in independent films. Let's say nowadays it's getting harder and harder for independent films to find spots on a theater schedule or roster because the bigger movies just take up all the space and all the screens. So for AMC to say, hey, look, we know what you did, but this goes against our agreement, quote unquote, and that is the 90-day agreement where the initial run, then move it over to video or streaming. Because of that, we're now going to break our partnership and no longer entertain your films. Now, granted, you're like Universal Studios. Well, what kind of movies does Universal Studios have? Well, I mean, quite simple. Right now, the upcoming movies that they could have and potentially lose out on, the upcoming Fast and Furious movie, the 9th one in the franchise, which is due out on April 2nd of 2021. Another movie that got pushed back. The new Minions, The Rise of Gru, due out on July 2nd, 2021. Sing 2, funny enough, I was talking about that before. Maybe that's why I thought about it. Sing 2, coming out on December 22nd, 2021. And Jurassic World Dominion, currently scheduled for June in 2021. Those are just some of the movies that they're going to pass up on, especially Jurassic World. Those movies, after the recent reboot or relaunch, have been doing really well. The Fast and Furious franchise is a runaway hit. Somehow people are asking how, but it's a fun movie. It's silly. They've gotten sillier as they've gone along. But AMC is just, they're being almost like the best way. That's my dog in the background. What are you doing over there? They are being like pretty much stubborn children, saying, hey, look, we can't have you do this. So to make an example of you guys, until we discuss certain things or we can come to an agreement, we're no longer going to show your films. And they're saying that once theaters do reopen, which is currently slated for sometime midsummer, that they're not going to change their minds right now. They're going to hold to this for quite some time. There is time before those other movies come out to the theaters in 2021. It's a long ways away at this point. But for them to say, hey, look, we know what you did. We're not really appreciative of it. We're going to take your movies and tell you to go shove them. And that's not punishing AMC. In a sense, you're punishing now the fans. What if you don't have another theater other than AMC? This is going to lead to a lot of people saying that I'm going to boycott AMC. I'm never going to watch another movie there again. It just gets silly at that point. So they decided to show a movie early without using your theater. Okay. Not everybody is going to be able to push the movie back. These studios need to currently keep money coming in. There's no way for them to do that unless they push certain things out into the public and hope that they can make some money back. And that's what they decided to do. So I'm actually going to, if I'm going to take a side on this one, I'm going to say, good for Universal, because they found a way that's going to benefit them, benefit their customers, or their clients, or their fans, however you want to say it, and keep the ball rolling. AMC isn't currently open. Like most of the theaters across the nation have closed due to what's going on currently. So it's kind of hard for AMC to really say, hey, look, we're not going to play your movies once we reopen. Well, that's just being stubborn. So I hope that something can come from this and they can say, yeah, maybe we're a little too harsh. Maybe we're a little too public about what we were talking about. This could have been discussed. That's another thing. With all the news sites and coverage of this, it's kind of silly that it's gotten to this point. It reminds me of when Sony and Disney and Marvel had the falling out over the license for Spider-Man. Spider-Man Far From Home came out, and after that whole dispute over whether there was going to be another Spider-Man appearance in the MCU, or whether Marvel and Disney and Sony could come to terms on the money and who gets what portion of the pie and everything else. That became ridiculous. But that also because, once again, fans and viewers decided, hey, we're going to chime in on this. So they covered it, they reported it, and there was a long ongoing thing. That kind of reminds me of what's happening right now as far as AMC and Universal. It really shouldn't matter. And what, if anything, again, what this pandemic, this point in time is teaching us is that a lot of the different systems that we had in place and we took for granted, maybe they just weren't working as well as we thought. If something like this can cause such a disruption between a movie studio and theaters. So maybe this might be something going forward. Maybe other studios might say, hey, look, we appreciate you showing the movies in the theater, but we're going to try to, essentially cut out the middleman and go direct to our viewers, go direct to their screens and see what happens. Nowadays, I don't know about many of you, but I've been fortunate enough that, years ago, Jen and I bought a big screen TV. In fact, that's one of the big purchases we bought when we first moved in together. It's not the greatest TV by these standards, but I still have a big screen TV in the living room, and it's great. I enjoy watching films on it. I enjoy, currently in the background, for any of those of you who are wondering, I have Captain America, the First Avenger, playing on mute. And that's just so I can have something in the background to watch when thoughts cross my mind. And it's a nice thing. We have friends over to play video games, watch movies, whatever the case is. We watch the Super Bowl. We have a nice big screen TV so we can watch things on. But not everybody has that accessibility. Hell, some friends don't have larger screens. In fact, they prefer the smaller screens. But I have other friends who built theaters in their freaking homes. That's mind-blowing to me. One of our friends, I'm not going to say where, not far from where we live, decided to invite us over. We were over for, I think it was for New Year's, and we decided to sit down, have some fun, and oh, you want to check out the theater? And this was an ongoing thing where part of their house was roped off because of construction, and we went to go check it out, and they had these nice reclining chairs. It was I think it was 3 or 4 rows, 4 chairs in a row, and they had this huge screen and sound system set up, and it felt like you were in a large garage, and it was nicely set up. The carpet was nice, so it would absorb the sound. They had soundproofing on the walls to absorb sound as well a little bit, and you could sit down and watch. I think we watched one of the Star Wars movies, and it was fantastic. That was when stereo systems were really becoming accessible as far as having them in your home theater, or at least if you're going to have a home theater. Nowadays, you can buy a sound bar and put it in front of your TV, and it's not going to be the same as going to the theater, but it'll give you that oomph as far as sound is concerned and that sound quality. And that also comes down to preference as far as what you would like in terms of movie experience in your home. Is it okay if you just stay in your pajamas and sit in your couch or your recliner, whatever the case is, and watch the latest films brought to you straight to your screens? All you have to do is hit a few buttons. Maybe, let's see, a movie ticket's $10-12 nowadays, depending on where you go, maybe even more. Especially if you have the new reclining seats or the spread out, and then they have premium foods or dine-in experience, whatever you want to call it. A lot of places have liquor licenses now. So you might spend $10 to $15 on a ticket. And then you're going to spend another, I don't know, $20 maybe on dinner, maybe even $30 depending on where you go. Sometimes those dine-in experiences can get really, really pricey, especially if you're going with not just a date or your significant other, but also if you have a family. Hell, I'm about to be a father of 2, so I can only imagine by the time we all go to the movies together, it's going to be quite expensive just to take the family for a night out. You have to save up for that kind of thing. Me personally, I don't mind if I would have to stay at home. Granted, I would have to maybe upgrade some of my technology so that I make it more of a immersive experience. There was even, what was it that just came up recently? You can actually buy VR headsets, virtual reality, kind of the Vive HTC, and the newest one from Oculus is the Oculus Quest. One of the things that they've been talking about is using VR headsets so you can watch movie and sporting events. Imagine being in a movie where you're essentially the camera. So if you turn your head to the left, to the right, if you're watching, again, because I'm watching Captain America, if I'm watching the scene right now currently where Bucky is captured by Hydra, and they're trying to save them from the facility, I can turn my head to the left or to the right as they're on the catwalk, and I can see more of the warehouse on fire and things blowing up. I don't have to focus primarily on the characters on the screen. So that would be a nice thing to have at home, and that would bypass my TV screen. I can just set my headset up to whatever device or streaming network I have, and then go from there. Imagine sporting events. If you're sitting on the 50-yard line through this VR headset, you could look to the left, to the right. You could see the action. Hell, because it's VR, you could even be placed on the line of scrimmage, so you could watch football live or basketball. Let's say that you can be courtside watching basketball. That's another example of what you can do. I'm getting a little far off as far as the dispute back and forth of home or theater, but those are options that you could use to watch movies at home and enjoy something from the comfort of your home. Or if you like to go out to a movie theater and you like to support your local theater, if it's not a chain, if it's a mom and pop theater, there's a few around here in this area. We have a Reading Cinema, AMC's. I can't remember what the other one was, but Reading and AMC are predominantly the ones in this area. So there's at least 3 AMC theaters that I know we've gone to watch movies on a regular basis. The Reading cinema is a little bit closer. But if I now have to choose, am I going to go a little bit further out to go watch a movie at the AMC theater, or stay closer to home at the Reading theater? Well, first off, I can tell you by what we currently have here. The AMC still has stadium seating, which back in the day was an amazing thing. Like, you have the tiered seating, but you're still, elbow to elbow with somebody. And if you sit to somebody who's like me, a little bit more of a huskier guy, I'm going to have to fight you for that armrest. Or, I'm usually a nice guy and give it up anyway. But so long as you're sitting next to somebody it's not that big of a deal. If you're sitting next to a stranger, you're like, I really don't feel that comfortable, but no, it doesn't matter. We're all going to get lost in the movie. Or go closer to home. The Reading Cinema has their lounge seating. They have the little automatic button where you press if you want to throw your feet up a little bit, relax. The little tray table in front of you. You can enjoy yourself that way. You have more space. It's more open, so you can relax and enjoy yourself. And I've seen people pass out during movies doing that. Maybe that might not be a good thing if you've been up all night. But those are different options you have. Those are things you can hopefully, depending on your preference, make a decision on. Now, we might be looking at the difference of, do I want to go to the theater or do I want to stay home? Do I have time to go out? Because if you're going to a movie, let's say a movie is about 1.5 hours, 2 hours at most. Unless you're watching a Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino movie, then you're looking 2 to 3 hours at best. Or you have other options, depending on your preference. But you're looking at an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's just the movie itself. You, like me, I don't know, I like getting there to the theater early so I can watch the trailers for the coming attractions. So that's another 15-20 minutes to get there to make sure that you don't miss anything. Then you've got to, time out as far as concessions, if you want drinks or whatever the case is. There's more time. And then especially at the end, if it's what I'm saying is it's not just one designated little time frame. It takes time to go out to the theaters. Unless you just like to pop in halfway through a movie, which if you do, you're throwing your money away. But if you want to just go to a movie and enjoy, it's going to take time. It's going to take effort on your part to leave the house, go there, watch the film. Now, with what's going on between AMC and Universal, if this is going to be an ongoing thing where they say, okay, we're not going to play your movies, fine. When Fast 9 comes out, I might stay home. My house is not conducive to a theater experience. It's not going to have the booming sound from the THX or whatever sound system they have in there, 5.1 or 5.6, whatever the case is nowadays. They have all the different speakers around you, and you could hear a pin drop, 10 meters behind you, then explosions happening in front of you, and helicopters left and right, whatever the case is. Then you've also got, let's throw this into the mix. Out in New York and out on the West Coast, and especially, they have the 4D experience theaters, where if you go to watch something, let's say, again, because I'm watching Captain America right now, if it happens on the screen, it happens in the theater. So if there's fire on the screen, there's heat that's brought to you, that there's like, I don't know exactly how they do it, but they blow hot air at you. If it's snowing in the movie, it snows in the theater. The chairs move around if you're in a car chase. It's a more immersive experience for moviegoers who want that. Are you going to get that at home? No, that's going to be a pretty penny to get that kind of setup put up in your house. But Who knows? Maybe you have the money to do it. I certainly don't, not currently. But again, this is all coming down to preferences, options, decisions that we're going to have to make going forward. Because if AMC decides that they want to be a stick in the mud and say we're not going to play Universal or any other studio that decides they want to bypass the theater window, then we might be looking at other studios going straight to the consumer and say, hey, look, we're not going to make you wait the 90 days. If you want to see it day of, you can rent it for $20. Gather your friends around the house, watch it all together, and enjoy. Imagine when Black Widow comes out, if they decide, okay, you know what, the quarantine thing is still happening, stay at home, sheltering, whatever the case is, that's still a thing. Screw it, we're not going to delay this any further because it's going to mess up the timetable for all the other movies. We're just going to release it. Or Jurassic World Dominion. If they want to release that one next year and things are still a little dicey and people are just not comfortable going to the movies because they're not sure what they may or may not contract while they're out there. I personally hope that by that point in time, it would be safe to go out to eat, go to the movies, go shopping, whatever the case is. But if at that point people don't feel comfortable, theaters might see a hit as far as moviegoers. So what do studios do when they're not making money in the theaters? It would make sense at that point to just go straight to the customer, straight to the customer screen. And at that point, you don't have to worry about losing money because you could make quite a bit of money back as far as video on demand, premium video on demand in this case. Usually, I think I talked about this before, usually when they put something out, the video on demand or the rental, they usually allow you to buy it for the first, I think, week or two. And then after that, they have the rental itself, which is generally a little bit less. But if they're going for the premium video on demand, if you want to watch it first before all of your friends, you have a chance to buy it at a higher cost. And really, there's no lose for, it's not a losing situation with the customer. At that point, you're still getting your entertainment. You're still going to get what you want to see. You're still going to be able to watch what you want to watch. Hell, people might enjoy being home by themselves and watching this through premium video on demand, especially for first run movies, big blockbuster movies. Now, if you want to be an introvert, you can sit at home. Who's going to bother you at that point? You shut off your phone, you put your phone on silent, whatever the case is, or leave it on for all you care. But now you can watch it in the comfort of your home. You don't have to worry about people talking during the movie. You don't have to worry about people disturbing you or getting up in front of you, walking past you, or asking you dumb questions. You can avoid all those weird situations at home if you're going to watch it that way. And I wouldn't mind. Hey, if there's a test group out there to try this out and say, hey, look, would you prefer to watch movies at home as opposed to going to a theater? Let us know. I would probably sign up for that. If this happened during the time where I was home from work, when everything started going crazy out there, I definitely would have enjoyed sitting at home and watching movies. Hell, I was watching, a couple episodes ago, I was talking about different movies, different programs I was streaming or different movies that I was watching. Recently, the other night, I finally got a chance because I was looking through some of the streaming apps. I found Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I was like, holy crap, this is out already on streaming. And granted, I think it came out during the summer last year. But it kind of went past me because I didn't get a chance to go out to the theaters to watch it. Again, here I am. Here's my situation. It's a great one now that I think about it. Since my son has been getting older, it's been harder and harder to go out to watch movies because finding a babysitter is harder and harder depending on people's schedules are. Not now because people are home, but nobody wants to go out regardless. If we wanted to find a babysitter, we had to make a few calls here and there, and hopefully with somebody to watch my parents, her parents, whatever the case was, we'd have to try to find somebody that was going to watch our child. And then we can go to the movies. Because our child currently does not sit still for a movie. He does not know movie etiquette. But I'm hoping to teach him that one day. But that would require, us to find a babysitter for us to go out and enjoy a movie, maybe even dinner, depending on the case. And we would see what happens. But now, especially that we're going to have a second child on the way, it's going to be harder and harder for us to go out or find a babysitter. So staying at home, maybe it's not a bad idea. Maybe that is the way to go. And if that's the case, then sign me up. I'll get a sound bar. I'll get a nice little stereo system in here. I wouldn't mind spending a little extra. Why not? I have a credit card. Put it on there. Upgrade the living room a little bit as far as the movie experiences going, and we'll go from there. That's not a bad idea. It'll make things easier for me. Spend $20 to watch a movie. We can buy our drinks, at the supermarket or the convenience store, whatever the case is. It's gonna be a lot cheaper than going to the theaters. But we'll see what happens. I mean, that's a crazy, crazy idea that they're gonna want to say, hey, look, we're gonna not play your movies because one of your films went out and broke the theater agreement in the 90-day window. I think AMC should just swallow their pride and say, hey, look, we get it. Sorry. Let's discuss. Let's not do that again. And maybe talk to us and maybe see what we can do to help you out. That's just me. But I know AMC is a very interesting theater chain, actually, because I know they've had financial troubles in the past, and they always have, I don't remember what it's called, but they have windows every now and then where they allow the public to buy shares of the company. You don't get anything back. You essentially are just buying shares in the company, and they collect your money. I don't think they give you anything particular in return. You just get to say that you bought a share of the company and you helped out, essentially. Movie theaters are, the best way I can put it, they're the print of, let's say, comic books or magazines. Let's say that. Where they say print is going to be, phasing out and digital is going to be the new thing. It looks to be the same thing with movies. Why would I have to go to the theater or buy a physical copy, let's say, and go that way? Or I can just watch it on a streaming service once it's released. Same thing as for like DVDs and Blu-rays, but I'm lumping theaters in there. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but it's the same thing. Like, it's an outdated system, especially nowadays, where people can just watch things at home. A lot of people watch things on their phones. They watch them on their tablet. They don't necessarily need a big screen experience for them. They just want to watch the film and be entertained. I had friends who used to work overnight shifts, and they would watch on a tablet or a little TV that they would set up, and they would just watch series while they were working, because a lot of the stuff that they were doing was just automated. So long as the machine doesn't throw up a red flag, you can sit there and watch anything to your heart's content. That's really what it comes down to. Nowadays, with technology being what it is, forget about what I was talking about as far as big screen at home. That's one thing, definitely. But nowadays we have phones and tablets and watches that give us all of our digital information. Why wouldn't it be the same for entertainment? Cars have little TV screens on the dashboard, on the back of the headrests. You watch movies that way. Why not? You can take your car out to a park, a safe park that you trust and and sit down and watch a movie. Why not? Far away from everybody else. You're not bothering anybody. So long as you're not breaking any ordinances, you're good. But again, these are different options. These are different preferences. Do you want to go out? Do you want to have fun? Do you want to be comfortable? Whatever the case is, you decide. And you're going to vote with your dollar, essentially. You're going to decide what's going to happen going forward. Because if AMC can't realize that maybe it's not a good idea to take out one of the movie studios from their theater, now those other theaters, those competing chains, are going to have a leg up on them as far as money. Because if you're going to skip out on Fast 9 or The Rise of Gru or Jurassic World, if you're going to decide you're not going to play them, then the other theaters are going to play them happily. And they're going to go over there and they're going to make more money over there, because those big weekend returns, those big box office numbers, are going to belong to those theaters and studios. And all Universal's going to be able to say is, hey, look, sorry, you didn't want to play ball. You didn't want to support us at a time where our customers, our fans, wanted to see something and entertain themselves by staying at home with their families. So AMC, I think you walked into something that you were not prepared for. This already is a strange time for theaters. Why would you put yourself in a weird position? I think that's what they've done in this case. So I think I've pretty much said all I'm going to say about that one. But hell, because I mentioned it before, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I wanted to watch it in theater, but I was perfectly content to watch that in my home last night. And I was happy, because here I was, not to toot my own horn, but I was able to sit at home, work out, and watch a movie. For me, that's fine, because I was by myself. So I enjoy the film. Quentin Tarantino has been criticized for having long-winded movies. I don't mind them, especially if I know that I don't have anywhere to go or have anything to do. I was perfectly happy sitting here doing my thing and watching the film. But it was an interesting movie because it's very similar in the vein of Inglourious Bastards. I don't remember when that one was released, but it was some time ago. And that one took place during World War II. And what was interesting was, if you haven't seen Inglourious Bastards right now, I'm going to spoil it. So 1, 2, 3. In Inglourious Bastards, at the end of the movie, they kill Hitler. And people watching the film, I remember watching the movie myself, watching the finale of that movie, I was like, holy crap, this is obviously not the way it played out. This is obviously not the way it went down. Quentin Tarantino has gotten this bug recently where when he does his movies, especially if they're based on historical times, that he likes to do revisionist history. And really what it comes down to is he picks a point in time where something big happened, and then he leads up to that point, or that certain point in time, and then rather than follow history the way it normally played out, he will find a way to take his fictional characters and have them essentially mess with the normal course of history. In this case, the Inglourious Bastards and the other character that they run across. In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you have Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. This is only fresh in my mind from last night. DiCaprio plays a action star who was pretty much on his way out in Hollywood in that time, in 1969. He was more of a star in the 1950s as far as the story is concerned. He's based off a bunch of other different people, and they pull traits here and there. Brad Pitt plays his stuntman and also his personal assistant or chauffeur, whatever you want to call it. During this time, you see Sharon Tate. Now, if anybody knows 1969 and Sharon Tate, it's a very sad and gruesome time because that was when the Manson murders happened, where members of the Manson family broke into their homes and violently murdered Tate and her friends. I was watching this film, and it was funny because Jen came out and she sat on the couch and she started passing out. I'm watching the film, I'm like, all right, there's certain points that I recognize in the film. There's a lot of stuff that they're making up. It's here and there, whatever the case is. But when they finally get to where they're laying out where everybody was, such and such came home at midnight and started making margaritas. Such and such went home last night and started listening to music. They were setting up the ending. They were setting up where these characters were at this point in time in 1969 when the murders took place. So you're about to see the finale of the movie, and I saw it coming. I paused the movie and I looked at Jen. I said, hey, look, maybe you want to go to bed. I was being nice about it because I didn't want to tell her exactly what was going on. Jen has this thing where if she watches something late at night before going to bed, it'll stick with her when she goes to sleep, and then she might have a nightmare about it. So a good example of it was we used to watch The Walking Dead together on Sunday nights, and she would go to bed and she would have nightmares of zombies. It's understandable. It's gruesome, and if it's the last thing lingering in your psyche, your unconscious, that's what's going to play out in your dream. Okay, I get it. Suggestive thoughts. In this case, I saw this happening. I'm thinking to myself, well, Sharon Tate was pregnant when the murder happened. And it was pretty violent from what was described throughout history. So I said, maybe go to bed. What I meant to say, or should have said, is go to bed because there's a gruesome death scene coming up and I really don't want you to see it. I asked you to, maybe she should go to the bedroom, lay down, and just get some rest. And she agreed. She's carrying a baby in her belly. So she got up and went to go lay down. I hit pause on the play on the movie, and at that point, the scene plays out where the Manson family members come up on the house, and things change a little bit. Things don't go the way they're planned. Again, this movie's already been out for quite some time. It's been in the theaters and it's been on streaming, so I'm about to spoil the fuck out of it if you haven't watched it yet. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood also plays with revisionist history. So what happens is, when the Manson family members pull up to the cul-de-sac, where it's a private road where you're about to go up to Sharon Tate's house, but next door is where the character of Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are hanging out. When they're sitting there in their beat-up car and you can hear the muffler making loud noises and there's smoke coming out the back of it and the engine is just running loud, Leo's character comes out, Rich Dalton, I believe the character's name was, comes out and he's pissed off and he has a blender full of margarita and he starts yelling at them, calling them hippies and get the hell out of here before I call the cops, blah, blah, blah. Eventually they get pissed off and they back out. They go to the bottom of the hill where the road is situated on, and they decide, okay, who the hell is that guy? Oh, it's the guy from TV. Oh, I used to watch that guy growing up. Screw that, man. I'm not going to take that. I'm going to go over there. We're going to kill some piggies. They refer to it as. At that point, they get their weapons ready, their gun, their knives, and they head back up. One of the members decides they're going to run off. In history, I can't remember the name of the character. One of the members of the family was told to, hang back in the car and just, sit it out, wait it out, we'll see what happens. While the other three went up to the house. In this case, that fourth family member decides, oh, I forgot my knife. I need to go back to the car. Well, dum-dum, you need my keys. And he tosses her the keys. When she gets back to the car, she peels out. She leaves them there. So they said, screw it. We're going to stick to the plan. We're going to do what we came here to do. When we're done, we all spread out and we hitch back home. Home was quite a ways away, I'm sure. At that point, they're pissed off because this movie star, or ex-movie star in their eyes, told them off. So rather than going for their prime target, which is Sharon Tate, up in the house, they're going to go to the first house, which is, before that. And they break in, and all hell breaks loose. They come across Brad Pitt's character, who at this point in time in the movie is high on acid. So he's having fun. And they've got a big dog. I think it was it a Rottweiler or a Pit Bull? I can't remember now. But regardless, it was a large dog that responded to commands. So once this funny exchange happens between the Manson members and Brad Pitt's character of Cliff Booth, all hell breaks loose and a violent fucking scene plays out. I'm not going to spoil that part for you. Watch the ending of this movie because it was not what I was expecting. It definitely caught me by surprise because of not just what happened, obviously, because I know the history. I shouldn't say that. I am familiar with the history of what happened on that fateful night. But what plays out is a different scenario entirely, and it's pretty fucked up. That's all I'll say on that case. Head smashing onto hard surfaces, guns going off, people being bit, yelling happening left and right, and to cap it all off, a fucking flamethrower. I'll leave it at that. Watch the fucking movie. It was a lot of fun. I was not expecting it to be as fun as it was. Again, whether you like Quentin Tarantino movies or not, he referred to the movie as a love letter to LA. I can definitely understand it because you see a lot of the different locations. They're dressed up to look like their counterparts they would look like at that point in time in history. So you see a lot of the storefronts, the movie theaters, the movie studios themselves, where they're filming some of the TV or movies that are played out through DiCaprio's character's life. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. And the fact that Brad Pitt and DiCaprio got together so well on film, apparently, or excuse me, on set and on film, was a lot of fun to watch. I was like, holy crap, who the hell gets Brad Pitt and Leo in a movie? Well, apparently Quentin Tarantino was lucky enough to do so. And they've already said that because they got together so well, that they'd definitely be open to doing another project together. So whether that be through Quentin Tarantino or another director, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was a fun movie, so long as you don't mind sitting there. It was quite a bit of a film. As far as length, let's see here. I think I have it here. Runtime. Do I have the runtime? 2 hours and 41 minutes. Quite a bit of time. Again, you better make sure that you have the time and that you're prepared for it, because if not, you might pass out during this movie. Actually, there's another point too. Perfect. Going back to what I was saying before. If you're going to be at home and you're going to watch a movie, and if you've already rented it and you have, let's say you have it available for 24 hours. If you pass out watching a movie, doesn't matter. Fire that movie back up again. Rewind back to the spot that you were at. Maybe there was a big fight scene going on, or maybe there was a long dialogue scene going on and you're just like, fuck this, man. You could go back and watch it, or fast forward past that and get to the part that you want to see because you're like, shit, I went to the bathroom, or shit, I had to go, take care of something. That's another benefit of having it in your home. So, whatever. I would definitely recommend Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Even though, and I will say this because this is a bit of controversy that came out from the movie, was the fact they're talking about there's this one scene with Bruce Lee. Again, this is a little bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to know about it or if you've read about it, this is what happens. At one point, Leo's character is getting ready on set for a project, whether it be a movie or TV show. I don't remember off the top of my head, but he's talking about getting his stunt double, a guy that he trusts, suited up. He goes, "Look, let's get him in a wardrobe." But the director's like, "Nah, I don't know. We don't really trust him. He's got a shady past, and people are not really comfortable around him. It's not gonna happen. Oh, just put him in a wardrobe. If you use him, you use him. Great. If you don't use him, there's no harm done." I think the line that Leo says is, "If it's no, it's no, but don't let it be no with excuses." Which I love that line. It's great. Down to the point. If you're gonna tell me no, just make it no. Eventually, the guy's like, fuck. All right, well, we'll put him in wardrobe. If we need him, we'll use him. If not, I'm not paying him. Great, no problem. While Brad Pitt's character is waiting to be used or not used, he's sitting there hanging around, back lot, and Bruce Lee is portrayed as this blowhard. He's walking around talking about martial arts and fighting, and people he would fight, and people he wouldn't fight, and Brad Pitt's character laughs at one of his comments, and Bruce Lee looks around and says, "What are you laughing at, pretty boy?" And between the two of them, they break out into this fight scene. The controversy that happens in this movie is that the way they portray Bruce Lee as arrogant, loudmouth, a blowhard, I said before, and how dumb in a certain extent he looks, because he's pretty much disregarding certain aspects of his opponent in this point in time. I will say this. Now, watching this movie, because I remember reading about this incident in the movie, when the movie came out, I remember reading an article where people were upset about it. I didn't realize what the context of it was. Essentially, this scene plays out as a flashback for Brad Pitt's character, where he goes to do some home maintenance on Rich Dalton's home, and before he's about to start working, he's thinking to himself, what the fuck? Why didn't I get hired for that job? What the hell? Why didn't he allow me to come on set? And then he has a moment where he thinks back. And that's how that scene plays out. It's a memory in Cliff Booth's brain that's playing out. Made more apparent by the damage that's done to one of the vehicles during the fight scene. If you watch it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. There's a point in time where they're fighting and one of them gets slammed into a car. It looks like a superhero just threw another individual into a car, because the amount of damage on the doors is ridiculous. And through that, you're like, okay, all right, here's this guy having this little trip down memory lane, the one time where he got into a confrontation with Bruce Lee back in the 60s. Okay. I can see that. That's his interpretation of it. That's how he sees it. What had happened was Quentin Tarantino was criticized by not only the Lee family, but other members of, or other fans of Bruce Lee, saying that that's not how he was. That's not how he should be portrayed. That's not how people should remember him. Hey, look, there's a lot of material out there, and Linda Lee and Shannon Lee can work on whatever they want on how Bruce Lee is remembered. This is a one scene in a movie told through the flashback of a character in the movie. Quentin Tarantino had fun with it. That's what it came down to. And I was like, okay, I get it. I see it. China apparently was offended by this one scene, and they would not allow the movie to be released in China unless Quentin Tarantino edited that one scene out of the movie. Quentin Tarantino said, nope, not going to edit. That's the way it is. That's the film as I shot it. That's how it's going to play. If you don't want to play it that way, don't play it. Which is kind of ballsy, especially nowadays, because overseas the market in China is pretty big as far as movies are concerned. What was it? Iron Man 3. They filmed, I think it was like a 10 to 12 minute extra scene exclusive for China, just so they can, benefit of having it out there and getting extra people to see it. Because like, oh, there's this, scene, that's essentially catered to us, which is a nice little thing. But Marvel's not stupid. Marvel and Disney are not dumb when it comes to their movie markets. They try to make the best out of the different markets and what they can cater to. So as far as Quentin Tarantino and Once Upon a Time, hey, look, he's been around in the movie business for quite some time. You love him, you hate him. I know Jimmy in particular, one of our friends and former hosts on the show. He he despises the Kill Bill movies because of all the different inaccuracies, and a lot of fans also despise him for what they refer to as ripping off. Quentin Tarantino refers to as homages. Quentin Tarantino used to work at a video store. His passion was films. The fact that he was able to make the jump into Hollywood and make a bunch of different movies, good on him. I mean, hell, he's doing what he wants to do. I might not like all the films that he's ever put out. Jackie Brown, I can never really sit through in one sitting. But Pulp Fiction, fun movie. Hateful Eight, for as long-winded as it is at times, a fun movie. I'm trying to think some of the other different ones I've seen more recently. Reservoir Dogs, way back in the day, that was groundbreaking for him. Even the one scene, I think, was Four Rooms, which was like an anthology of different stories, all told in one hotel during New Year's. Even his room or his story in that film was a lot of fun. So, everybody has different tastes out there, and some people, as soon as they see a certain name attached to a movie, a good example for fans that I know of, Michael Bay. As soon as his name was attached to the Transformers, anything Transformers at that point, Michael Bay is like the devil. Some people have that same reaction with Quentin Tarantino, like, oh, he doesn't know how to write movies, and he just rips off stuff that he used to watch growing up. Yeah, I'm sure he does. But it's stuff that he watches, stuff that he likes, and stuff that he, prefers. So that's what he got into. That's what he likes. That's his style. I'm not going to blame him for that. The man fucking entertained me for 2 hours and 41 minutes. I had a blast. It was fun. Stupid. It was great. I wasn't expecting the ending. He caught me off guard. Revisionist history be damned. I don't care. It was a fun movie experience. I enjoyed myself. Why not? But people out there just always want to try to tear something down before they get to it. That's fine. But Jimmy didn't like Kill Bill for a number of different reasons. I know the sword ceremony when the bride gets the sword from Sonishiba. I can't remember the name of the character off the top of my head. The Hanzo sword. He points out that this isn't right. That's not. It's supposed to be done this way. Whatever the case, it's a freaking movie. I don't go to movies to go for accurate depictions all the time. I don't need that all the time. I go to a movie to lose myself, to be entertained, to have fun. Are there times that I want to watch something historical? Yeah. If I'm watching something like Saving Private Ryan, Spielberg's going to try his best to try to get some of those different points in history correct. Hell, even Quentin Tarantino did the same with the beginning of the movie. I mean, there's a lot of things that do play out the way they do in history. It's just that he has a bunch of fictional characters in these places that change the events a little bit. So that's what that is. I'm not defending the movie at all. It sounds like it, but what I'm talking about is that I was entertained. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I wish I would have seen that in the theater. I would have loved to have seen that in the large screen with the sound system and have it play out in front of me. That'd be great. But I was quite content watching it home last night. There's a bunch of different movies that I've been able to watch home recently, not just the different TV shows that we've been talking about. I watched Venom finally with Tom Hardy. Didn't like it as much as I was hoping I would, but it was still fun. Probably because I got to watch it at home. I didn't have to pay any extra money to watch that one, which is great. Again, that's another benefit of watching something at home. You're already subscribing to a streaming service or app, so there's no reason to pay extra money for it at that point in time. That movie just comes to you at home, and you can do whatever you want during that time. It's your private theater, your private domain at that point. So if you get a chance, watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you're a big Marvel fan, watch Venom. Otherwise, don't watch Venom. Don't get me wrong, it was fun for what it was. Not something I'm going to go back to and watch again probably, but my opinion really doesn't, stand for much because they're going to make a sequel. They've already announced the sequel to Venom, and that is Venom: Let There Be Carnage. If you watch Venom, at the very end, they do the little teaser scene where you see Woody Harrelson in prison wearing this like little red wig, curly hair, red wig, and he's going to play the character of Cletus Cassidy, also known as Carnage. So I don't know, we'll have to wait and see, because the agreement between Sony and Disney, they're going to try to have something where the movies do play into one another somewhat, because right now they're saying, I think Spider-Man is supposed to be showing up in the upcoming Sonyverse movies, which is Venom and some of the other ones that they're working on. We'll see what happens. We'll also see what happens again, because a lot of things got delayed, so a lot of the different schedules for these films got pushed back. So we'll see what happens. But I think I've run my mouth far longer than I should in going through. So I don't know. You let me know what you guys think. If you think that AMC is in the right because they feel that they're losing out on those box office dollars, because let's face it, they are also a business. They also have to pay their employees. They have their bottom line that they have to meet. Okay, let me know. Or if you think Universal was right because they were helping families and moviegoers entertain themselves at a difficult time, we'll see what happens. I know I talked about when Disney hot-shotted Onward over to Disney Plus. I really didn't hear too much of a disagreement on that one. I think the movie had only been in theaters about a month at that point. So, are studios allowed to show their stuff directly to fans in their home screens, or should they wait? Let me know what you think, studio or movie chain. A theater chain, I should say. Let me know what you think. And if you've watched either Venom or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or any other films recently, and you're like, oh, dude, like I've been home and I've been having a little bit of extra time. I watched this or I watched that. I liked it or didn't like it. Let me know. Send me an email, rabblecast@gmail.com. Tweet it at Rabblecast. Or check it out on the Facebook fan page. I might put something up about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I really enjoyed it. And I really just want to be able to put some more stuff on the Facebook fan page. So we'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. But if you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for indulging me. And thank you for listening to somebody just ramble on for about an hour about movies and theaters and their sometimes rambling opinions. Thank you for listening. We are the Rabblecast.